Hi, everybody. It's Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing Live number 159. Welcome today. We're going to be talking about pulled chest voice. Why is it so easy to do and so hard to stop it? I get this. This is probably the number one topic, it seems as if, all the time. All the questions, most of the issues with people's voices occur because they're pulling chest voice and they just can't figure out how to do any other thing than pull chest. So anyway, I want to say hi to you, and I've got a new little chat screen here I'll pull up, and I'll just say hello to, now it's one massive screen here. Sean Devlin, hi. Sean, nice to have you here today. Louise Suarez, hi, how are you? Morel, nice to have you here today. Eric, hi there, nice to see you. And welcome to this live broadcast today. So here's the question. Are you pulling chest? Do you pull your chest voice? I think the way I just want to ask, because there's a follow-up question I'll ask in a minute. Do you pull chest voice? And just let me know, yes or no, in the comments. Do you? I know that for years I did, and I didn't even know what it was. We'll talk more about that in a second. So, why is it, or why was it so easy for me to pull chest? And as I think back on my high school days and where I did a lot of singing, a lot of performing, when I first started taking voice lessons, everybody pulled chest. Everybody. All the guys did. I couldn't really hear it necessarily in the girls. And I would say probably as I think back, there were some of the girls that I sang with did not pull a lot of weight and a lot of chest voice, but all the guys did. There were a few high tenors. One was my best friend, and he could sing. I don't think he really ever pulled chest. He could get it up way up in his head voice, but most of the rest of us mortals were all pulling the daylights out of the chest voice. There were, and as I think back on it, my friend Jim Newson, who was just amazing singer in my magical group, which was called Benton Singers. I don't think he was pulling. He had just an amazing voice. Okay, so Sean Devlin says, Chuck, when I get to higher notes, my larynx goes up. How do I get more control and keep the larynx low? Sean, it's the first step you've already got there, and that is you have to first of all even be aware that the larynx is coming up. I had no clue the larynx was coming up. I don't know if I even knew what a larynx was till about 22 years ago when I first started getting into this. I did. I mean, I knew what the larynx, I knew the voice box, and I was actually in the medical industry and worked in the operating room for about 26, 27 years. So I had familiarity with the larynx, but as far as connecting it to singing, I wasn't even aware of it. So Sean Devlin, you are there. You're 50 to 75% there. You're aware of it now. So now what you've got to do is learn how to keep the larynx at your speech level where you talk. And maybe some of that I can address today. Arish, hi, nice to have you here today. He confesses very honestly, yes, he pulls chest. Eric C, think so, feels like my voice gets stuck in my throat, going up towards the middle. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I used to feel like I was hitting a ceiling in my voice, and I would like push against the ceiling but I could only push so far, and then I knew if I went one more note higher, something bad was going to happen. I was going to crack or uh, break, or I just have to keep yelling, and it would go flatter and flatter and flatter. The pitch would go flat. Kadar says, hi, it's bad that I have to go to sleep now. Oh, to get enough sleep. But could you check my Facebook message ASAP? I can't do it right now. I'm sorry. I can only do so many things. My luck was I'd cut us off from this broadcast. I have a question about stylistic or on-pitch singing. Sorry, I just am not able to jump on Facebook at the moment. Also, I think lower larynx is due to yawning and talk while yawn. It's also psychologically, or do you have to think about it? So, yeah, I think low larynx feels a lot like yawning. Oh, oh. Now I'm yawning. If you yawn and put your hand on your Adam's apple on the larynx, ladies, sometimes you have to kind of push into your neck, like push in and trace it down to feel the top of your larynx, which is the Adam's apple, and because yours is smaller than us guys, it's pretty prominent, so it's pretty easy to feel. If you yawn, the larynx drops. Luis says there's a vocal coach called Ken Taplin that says the SLS doesn't work because it doesn't teach support and doesn't help you build chest voice because it teaches you to bridge early. Oh, how about that? Good for him. Cookie Eater, does singing in mixed voice feel more like chest voice or head voice? Yes. In the lower part of your mix, it feels fairly. It feels a lot like chest, but it doesn't have the pull of chest. And as you go higher, it starts. You really have a hard time feeling the difference between mix and head voice. At least that's my case. We'll jump into that a little bit more here because I want to talk about. We're going to talk a little bit about mix, and so that might be answered. Kadar says, I'm in as soon as you can do. Oh, when you have free time. Okay, yeah, sure. Kadar, I'll jump on Facebook and see if I can find your question there. Sean Devlin, thanks for your answer, Chuck. I think that keeping my larynx low is a key for a good dark baritone sound on higher notes. Do you agree with that? Not really. I don't feel like the position of the larynx, that the reason for a low larynx should be for necessarily for a certain color or for a certain sound. I'm really trying to get away from trying to create a certain sound in a voice, like a darker or a richer or I don't know. So I think there's a lot of other reasons why the larynx resting at speech level is really beneficial. But I don't necessarily see it from the standpoint of trying to create a specific sound. I'm really more interested in reducing the tension of the larynx. So we better jump into this because we're getting pretty far downfield here. Let me just grab a couple other of these. And Morel Official says, what can I do to access mixed singing voice, easier mixed voice in singing? I think I'll answer that question here pretty quick. Lokman, I am in note G sharp 5, how I develop it. 5A exercise. Sorry, Lokman, I'm not getting I don't understand your question. You can find, Kadar says you can find a lot of hymn videos like expand vocal range and mixed voice exercises, and you can apply them to your technique in singing. I don't really, I'm a little bit lost on this. Okay. All right. So look, everybody, first of all, what is pulled chest? And for the ladies, I'll just say that your area of pulled chest is higher than the guy's areas. But for most tenors and basses, it's now that's not so bad. I used to do it a lot worse than that. I couldn't reach the G, but I was pulling there. And by pulling I was pulling up the bottom of my voice. Now I had to have a little bit of mix in there. I couldn't have gotten to the G, I don't think. But I don't want to stress my voice. But you can hear this. And so it's this vibration that's moving up as the pitch goes higher. And if I don't let that vibration shift into my head, now it's just hitting the hard palate. And I mean, look, sure, there's some that's resonating. There's some vibration, rather, above the soft palate. There has to be, because my whole head is vibrating. But primarily, the energy is hitting the hard palate and down and out, kind of splatting outwards. That's what pulled chest sounds like. The vocal cords are remaining, well, let's put it this way. There are some adjustments that have to be made in the chord structure that is not being made, and so you're not able to find the next area of your voice, which is more of, should be mixing or going into head voice. It just remains all one kind of thicker, heavier chord structure, and the vibrations aren't, and the vowel is spreading. So that all of these things combined create a nice pulled chest element. All right? Now, why is it so easy to do this? Why is that our default? What do you think? Why is it so easy to pull chest? Why do you do it? Why do you pull chest? I'm going to guess that many of you have just become aware that there is such a thing. I didn't know anything about this concept until I was 43 years old. And so when I hit that top, I knew I shouldn't go any further. And so I just would stop. If I saw an F in the music, I would think automatically, well, that's for tenors. Because the only way I could hit that was to go in the falsetto or to yell it. And my yelling in this key is the F sharp. It would just be under pitch, and it would be strident, and it was embarrassing. I wouldn't ever want to sing that. So I think one reason why we pull chest and why it's so easy to do is because we have no concept of an alternative. I thought, as I mentioned, that I was reaching the ceiling of my voice, that it just had this automatic place where I could not go any further. Genetically, I thought that physically my vocal cords wouldn't go there. I was a bass. I couldn't sing up into the tenor notes. Couple comments. Louise says, I know that SLS works because we all know really good singers who were trained in the system. But does it grow your chest voice, or do you think the exercises for stretching chest are not healthy? You know, I think it does speak for itself. No, there's no technique that's growing chest voice. It's all the same for every technique, for all voices. For all the ladies, all the men, our chest voices begin in a certain place. And that's fixed. Doesn't matter what technique you use. So, no, we're not growing chest voice. But the exercises, and we're not stretching chest, the exercises that I teach in a mix. And when you get good at it, it sounds very chest-like. There's a lot of chest presence, but it's not pulling up the chest voice. Mixing. We're blending the chest and the head voice. And that's probably why so many of us pull chest, is we just get a little bit confused about this. We're not stretching the chest voice out. I'm not giving you exercises that build some kind of chest muscle. and you know, that's a very logical thing to think. Oh, if I do this exercise, I'm going to develop my chest muscle so I can pull it higher and higher and higher and not have a problem. No, that's not what's happening, and no technique can do that. And if that technique is trying to do that, run as fast as you can away from it. Just get out of there quickly, because the end of that is going to be vocal damage. Which brings me to, in a moment we'll talk about some reasons why it's a good idea not to pull chest. So we've talked about why pulling chest, pulling is easy to do. You don't know any difference. You don't know what it is even, and you don't even know what it feels. I had all of those things. I didn't know anything about it. I'd never heard the word pulled chest. If you know that there's if you don't know there's anything else, if you know, you can do it. What can you do to change it? Or why should you stop pulling? You know, so there's a lot of things, even if we've heard about it, you think, well, what's the big deal? You know, why change? And I think there's some really good reasons why to change from pulling chest. Are some people really good chest pullers? Yeah. I'd say Adele. Adele was a really good chest puller. And a lot of other singers who've had, particularly those who've had surgery on their voices, you know, they were good chest pullers, and they would sing and pull their chest voice on a routine basis. And Adele hemorrhaged twice. I don't know what her current status is, but had to have, I think she had surgery a second time also with a vocal hemorrhage. There's been many other singers who've had vocal damage as a result of pulling the chest voice. And professionals, I'm not talking about just your everyday Joe here. I'm talking about those who are making a living singing and had to have surgery because of vocal abuse. So this is a reason. I guess it's not really in the topic of why it's easy to do. I guess the reason it's easy to do is because it's easy to pull chest. And why it's hard to stop, you have to learn a different technique of singing. You have to learn something different. And I find that there are some people that, so let's talk a little bit more about why people pull chest. Why is it so hard to stop pulling? Let me just see if anybody's got any comments here that we should bring out. So, coquette some adeliba provoker. I'm sorry, but sir, I am struggling to sustain my notes. Any tips? Yeah. I got two more questions for you. How to create a good bridge between chest and head voice, and can you please demonstrate your tongue position when you sing? Okay, so we're all over the board today. I'm just going to finish what my topic is, and then I'll come back and I'll answer every question today, okay? So I'm going to complete the topic so that those who click onto this broadcast because of the topic, I'm going to address it, and then at the end of that, I'll answer your questions, because I do want to get everybody's question. They're coming at me so fast. So, why is it hard to stop pulling? Why is it hard to stop? If you discover you can do something about it, like mix through the bridge into the head voice, many people think that's too hard to do. Many struggle with it because it's different. It's a different technique than pulling chest. You actually have to change the way you're singing. It's like you're going to learn a new golf swing, or you're going to learn how to do something different than you've always done. I've talked about this in the past. It's similar to a new sport that you're learning or that you have to change in order to get better at. And so you do have to, in some cases, almost feel like you're starting over. And that hardly makes sense to us. Especially if you're a professional and you've got a gig tonight or tomorrow or this weekend, because it's not going to happen. You're not going to be able to make a change that fast. And so that's why a lot of people just keep pulling until they have to have surgery or until their voice wears out. What does it sound like when it wears out? The vibrato slows down. And so if you were saying, ah, if you're pulling for so long, I don't want to pull that high. Ah, you start to get a wobble in your voice instead of vibrato. It slows the vibrato down so much that you start to fall in pitch, and it's more of a wobble than vibrato. So the cycle slows so much that, and that's because of vocal abuse, and usually because you're pulling, and you've been pulling for a few years or more, or you're singing too hard as you're pulling. So it's something that there's some real negative consequences to pulling chest, and yet there's another reason why we keep doing it, why it's easy to keep doing. It's because the listeners go, wow, whoa, that's amazing. That's just great. Oh my gosh, did you hear how hard he hit that note? He's bleeding from the mouth. He hit it so hard. Okay, I'm getting pretty facetious here, but I've seen concerts where, or shows, musical theater shows, where the singer is pulling chest like crazy, and the audience goes nuts. Well, that person is being rewarded for dangerous and damaging singing. Part of it's because this is what the audiences have been fed for so long that they think it's good singing. It's not. I'm sorry. And so I'm sure I'll offend many people. I'm sure that there will be many who will no longer follow me. But this is the truth. And that is, voices are damaged by chest pulling. Just because the audience stands up and cheers for your, it's like one of my students said last week to me. She said, I guess maybe people just like to hear people hurting their voices, singing in pain. Because she suffered that. She suffered, and I'm gonna release a video this week about this, where we talk about this. This is my student Margot, who's now she's on her cruise. She and her husband are a duo on a cruise line for 6 months. Okay, so we resist it. We resist changing sometimes because we think that's what the audiences want to hear, and it makes us feel big and powerful, and it does. It feels big and powerful. It hits that bone, the hard palate, and it feels like just, wow, big loud sound. And when we get into our mix and that vibration kind of shifts back and hits the soft palate, it feels like this. And we think, oh my gosh, I'm not singing very strong. Oh, that's bad. Nobody's going to like that. oh, I can tell it's weaker or lighter or whatever, and so we don't stay with it. So to allow it to get stronger and stronger with time. But I can tell you that a lot of people lose their patience. It doesn't take forever. It takes a while. It took me longer than it's going to take you. I'm a little bit slow when it comes to things like this, but it's certainly life-changing when you get it. Okay. Yeah, no, I know a lot of people criticize speech level singing. I've got several, I have several, at least two people that I've met who, feel like speech level singing is a myth or a hoax or, doesn't work or whatever. And that's fine. I know Michael Jackson studied it 25 years. I know that Barbra Streisand studied it. I know that Josh Groban studied it. I know that Bette Midler. I know that Bernadette Peters. I know that Natalie Cole did. I know that just singer after singer after singer, about 120 Grammy winners studied it. I think that's a pretty good recommendation. Now, it doesn't mean I'm that great of a teacher myself. So, I'm not saying that every teacher is fabulous and is going to be a Seth Riggs, but don't tell me that it doesn't work. It's worked for me. It's worked for many of my students who stay with it. Others who come and go, a couple of lessons and they're gone, didn't work for them. If you discover you have something, let me see. Okay, so if you do discover that you can do something about pulling chest, like mixing through the bridge into the head voice, a lot of times people feel like, well, I just can't get that. I don't get it. It's just too hard to do. Or it takes too long to learn. Or I don't like the sound. Of course, now what we need to remember is that what you're hearing on the inside and what the audience is hearing outside your head, out in the audience, are two different things. So when I started, I remembered it one time. I sat down on my piano, not this one. This is a electronic piano. We have a piano in our home, and I'm learning this technique, and I'm thinking, gosh, I feel like I've got such a transitions that's such a big difference in my sound, like it's too light. And so I got my recorder out. It was a cassette tape recorder. Anybody know what those are? See, I'm really old. And I sang, going up the scale, and I was just singing. And I played it back, and I was shocked. Because I felt like from the bottom, and I can't remember what key I was in when I did it. Maybe I was down here. I thought there was like this big shift or big difference in my voice. And it was really, it wasn't absolutely the same, but it was so similar that I was really surprised. Because on the inside of my head, I thought there was like this big difference in sound. And there wasn't that big of a difference at all. And I was still new to this. And so a lot of times we're telling ourselves things that are not true about your mix and about your head voice. I encourage you to record yourself and record your head voice and your mix and so forth while you're doing the vocal exercises and while you're studying. Record yourself and listen, and it's just a great way to, as soon as the football game is over with, you see it on TV all the time. The coaches will say, well, we're going to go back and watch the film on Monday morning. What are you doing to watch the film for your singing? Are you going back to listen? to what's, to a lesson that you've taken maybe? Or are you recording yourself as you're doing exercises and listening to your voice? Are you comparing your voice to the demonstration of your teacher and so forth? Those are all things, the way to create really good information so that you guys can help monitor yourselves. And some of you are, it sounds like some of you are doing that because you're recognizing that you're pulling your chest. So another reason why it's hard to stop is, as I mentioned, you really like the sound of pulled chest. It's an acquired taste, I think, and and that's your business and your job, your life, your voice, and so and some audiences, I think, and unfortunately too many audiences think that pulling chest is good singing. They take it for power, or they take it for talent, or they take it for, I don't know, ability. And all the singer's doing is just blasting their vocal cords in pulled chest. And people think it's amazing, and they clap and stuff. And then if you go back and try and do what you did in mix, the next week, it's going to be quite different. You've got to give yourself time to develop your true mix. But even then, it's going to be different. It's not going to be pulled chest. And so audiences, I've found that audiences really love good singing. Audiences really love good singing when they hear it. It's just they don't hear it often. Okay. So why change? Why change it? Well, number one is we talked about this briefly, you can damage your voice. You can get nodules, and the nodules will damage your voice if they become hard and calloused kind of things that you'll have to have surgery on them, and who knows how that's going to go. There are some singers who have surgery and they don't recover. They can't sing again. Or they choose not to sing again because their voices aren't optimal anymore. That's a sad thing. So, you can choose to continue to pull. Just be sure to save your money because your career will be shorter. It won't be as long of a career as you would like to have. Why change? Because mix is great singing and your voice will be healthy until you die. And you can sing all your life. So why change? Vocal fatigue is a good reason. Just losing your upper. You lose your head voice when you're pulling chest voice a lot. Your voice tires. It gets scratchy. You get hoarse. And your vibrato slows down. There's a lot of good reasons why not to be abusive with your voice by pulling chest. So you can use the alternative, learning to mix, all your life into your. I'm 60. I'll be 67 in 3 months. 2.5 months. And so far, so good. I need to do more vocal exercises just to stay more in condition, like I'm trying to stay with my body. I need to do that regularly. Now, I practice pretty regularly when I'm in a show. But when I'm not in a show, I neglect it, I confess. So I'm in the process of resetting goals, and I also have a show I want to be in or two next year. So I'm always motivated when I'm working for an audition or working for a show. So the answer to that is perform, and then you're going to be singing more. And so, but just, this healthy process of using mix is a way to extend your singing life. Okay. Now let me jump in and answer some questions. First of all, I just want to illustrate what mix is. Chest voice and head voice blended together is your mix. When you're approaching chest, there's a little bit more chest mix, and when you're getting more towards head, there's a little more head than chest vibration, and that's pretty normal, pretty natural, isn't it? The beauty about mix is you can keep going. You just keep that same condition, that same coordination of the chord structure. It'll take you into your head voice, and on and on and on. You don't have to make any changes or any adjustment. It's challenging because most of the time it's hard for us. It was hard for me to even know if I was mixing or not. So instead of saying ah, ah, pulling chest, ah, that's a mix through this area here. That's the G. Now I'm really entering into my head voice. So those are all. So just before I get into my bridge, I start to enter my mix a little bit early so that it's smooth. I don't wait till I get to my bridge to start to mix. And so the idea is to get in a little bit early into the bridge and enjoy that blend of chest and head, and then get through that and continue with the same condition. The vocal cords don't change. It just goes higher. The pitch goes higher. I maybe don't push as much air. You don't need as much air going higher, but stay in the same feeling as you go on up into your head voice. So that's the idea. Instead of pulling the chest voice higher, you go into your mix and go into your head voice. And it's been so fun. I mentioned last week I actually had a show where I sang a high C at one point. I wasn't sustaining the high C, but I sang it in a song, in a duet. I played Juan Perón, and I was singing with Evita, and we just had a blast. And there was one place where it's just so dissonant. It's a really fun show, and I actually had to sing a C, and I could do it and I wasn't yelling. I wasn't pulling the chest. I was having fun. So it lets you do certain things that you've never been able to do. It increased my range. Learning how to mix into the bridge increased my range an octave. I can vocalize higher. That's the high E. I can vocalize to an F, or some days F sharp, some days maybe a G. I don't sing up there, of course, but I can vocalize up there pretty much, So on good days, it's a little over 3 octaves. I know there are people out there who can do 4, or you can do, if you can squeak a whistle tone, then maybe you can get 4 octaves in. But anyway, so whereas before I had to stop at the E above middle C, because I didn't know any different. And so there was a question here about how Kokos Anna, I don't think I saw this, but she said, I just realized last week how to make my larynx stable. I had to stay with my thumb under my jaw for a week and nonstop, and every note I sang or vocalized, but now I just know how easy singing can be. Okay, that's a great comment. Yeah, it's a lot easier than we think. So Sean Devlin says, when I get to higher notes, my larynx goes up. How do I get more control and keep the larynx low? Well, first of all, the big job is to forget the old way and learn the new. You've got to forget old muscle memory and learn new muscle memory. And that's hard. That's hard to do. So here's a temporary tool that you can use, and it's called the gi. Only you do it kind of dopey. So if you put your hand here on your Adam's apple and say, duh, duh. Not just duh, but duh. A real kind of stupid, hey, duh. We call it a stupid sound. It's a kind of a cartoon character, like I'm going to the zoo. There's some character, I can't remember his name. Anyway, something like Deputy Dog or Yogi Bear, or I think this one was Little Huey or something like that. Some chicken that talked. I can't remember. Anyway, it's kind of a cartoon voice. Duh. Only say gee, 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 gee. Now, when you get to the bridge, the old muscle memory wants to kick in. Gee, 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 gee. And you start, the larynx starts coming up. This is really hard for like 16-year-old boys, 15-year-old boys, 14-year-old boys whose voices have just changed, because they're dealing with a whole new system. The vocal cords have gotten, they've doubled in size almost. And anyway, they're just longer, thicker, heavier vocal cords. It's just they just get stuck in their chest. Many. Well, I don't think I've met anybody that didn't have a problem getting through. But many of us go through that, and then we don't know any different, and so we're stuck at the E above middle C all our lives. So, the temptation is to grab it. And that's because that's old muscle memory. So we've got to go into that, and in essence, we have to relax and allow the sound to go a little bit hollow or hooty. And we have to stay dopey with this. Can you hear that hooty sound? Now, someone mentioned here, it's kind of like a yawn. I think that's very similar. Oh, you can hear that hooty sound. See. Hi, larynx. So just that hooty sound helps keep the larynx down. Now, how do you transfer that to a song? Well, you have to do exercises for a while so that your nervous system begins to accept this new condition. So you might say, or so I'm showing you how you learn to keep your larynx down. Now, I admit that's not, it looks pretty easy to do, but for me it was pretty hard. It took me a while. I remember where I was when I went through the bridge for the first time, connected. I was driving in my car, listening to cassette tapes. I was driving over an overpass, just, 3 miles from my home. And I was doing a little bit of a cry. And I was saying, and I was like, wow, I think I just went up into my head voice for the first time. I was like, that's amazing. So that was the A. So you just have to start working that. Now, for those of you who want exercises, these exercises for pulled chest, high larynx, go to the description below the video. It may not be there now, but when it's done, it'll be there. I don't know if it is or not. I think it is. It will be there at the end of this. There's a little PDF you can get that says, get my vocal type, or get your vocal type. It's a free PDF. It's got links to a vocal test you take. You take the vocal test and find out your vocal type, which today we're talking about the vocal type pulled chest, high larynx. There's 3 others too. Then you get a link to videos that you can watch about your vocal type, and then there's a link to exercises you can download and practice those. That's what I recommend you do. And they work. They work. So that's one way to keep the larynx low. And it takes some repetition over a period of time. I'd say over a period of weeks. At least it took me probably months. And in some cases, years. Yeah, because the other thing is the vowels can get out of control. And as soon as you spread a vowel, that pulls the larynx up too. And that's why sometimes it's hard to apply this to a song. You're able to do it in an exercise, but then the song comes along and it's got a more open vowel and on a high pitch, on a high note, and the vowel spreads. And then as soon as you spread the vowel with your singing, like love, as soon as you do that, the larynx pops up and you're pulling the chest. So you do have to do some vowel narrowing, and that's another topic another day. Okay. Okay, so yeah, so the really, it does really feel sometimes like your voice is stuck right in the middle of your throat. So this dopey exercise is a really good one. Gee, 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 gee. I've never talked to Ken Tamplin, but I know he doesn't like SLS. There's some guy. There's several guys who think SLS is no good, but hasn't been my experience. Cookie Eater, does singing in mixed voice feel more like chest or head voice? Singing in mix. Mom, 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 mom. Mom, 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 mom. Mom, 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 mom. It all feels kind of the same, but I know by the pitch that it's that I entered that into my head voice, but it feels pretty much the same. Whether I'm down here, mom, 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 it feels pretty much the same. The pitches are different, but everything else feels very similar. And so it all kind of feels, I guess, like my mix. It almost all feels like mix to me now. It didn't used to feel that way, but now that I've gotten my mix working pretty well, pretty consistent. That's, I guess, what's so great about it. It doesn't matter where you're singing. It just feels the same. Sean Devlin says, Chuck, do you think that keeping my larynx low is the key for a good dark tone on higher notes? I don't know what a dark baritone necessarily, I don't know what that exactly sounds like, because that's kind of a subjective thing. What you think is dark, I may not think is dark, and so forth. So one thing I do know is that a lower larynx tends to make the voice sound a little more mature. I've seen that in some of my girls. that I'm teaching, and sometimes they have a little bit of a high voice. When the lyrics comes down, they seem to age a year or two or three. It's just that they don't sound like they're 14. They sound like they're 17 or 18. And so I've noticed that with the larynx coming down, that there's more overtones that come in, and there's a broader spectrum of sound. But I personally, I can't say that, well, that's a darker sound. That doesn't fit my words very well. But it definitely gives you more overtones, and there's less strain, and there's no tension. What can I do to access mixed voice in singing? What can I do to access easier mixed voice in singing? So Mirel, M-I-R-E-L, go to powertosing.com, click on vocal types. Just go get the PDF mentioned below. Get my vocal type and take the test and follow that PDF, and then start doing the exercises for your vocal type. I'm going to guess it's probably pulled chest, high larynx. But take the test just to make sure. And that's how you've got to start doing it to get singing mixed voice easier. Because there are exercises there that'll help you develop a new muscle memory. Let me try and decipher this. Maybe he's helped me. I just don't know what it means. Let me see. Okay, well, sorry, I just don't quite understand. I am in G5 to G5. Sorry, I just don't get it. I'm losing something in the translation. Okay. So, Lewis says he knows SLS works, so me too. Question was from KP, K Provoker. Sir, I'm struggling to sustain my notes. Any tips? I'm thinking that the sustaining issue is just that you don't have quite enough air supply, and so you can go to powertosing.com, and on the right hand side there's a small hourglass. What do they call those? Those little search icons. Type in breath control into the search, and then watch episode 15 and 16. I think that's on breath control, and that'll help. I sometimes like to imagine that I'm pushing a car or truck down the road, down the highway with my air. And if I don't give it enough air, the truck stops. So that's kind of a visual thing that I just imagine that I've got to keep that air moving out and pushing up against the truck, and that way I get more air to help me sustain my notes. That's not a speech level thing. That's just a mental trick that I use for myself. So 2 more questions from Sean Devlin. How to create a good bridge between chest and head voice. And again, Sean, I think probably just creating that new muscle memory. So do those exercises. Are you doing the exercises for pulled chest, high larynx? And if not, go to that PDF and get that information. That'll take you to the vocal test and to the videos and to the exercises. Can you please demonstrate your tongue position? When you're singing, your tongue, the tip of the tongue should just sit and rest comfortably behind your lower teeth. Just whenever you're finished singing the note or the word or whatever you're doing, it goes back to there. That's the default position. The tongue changes positions with different consonants, but A-I-O, A-I-O-U. On most of the vowels, the tongue is pretty much right behind the lower teeth. And it's resting. And it's relaxed. Okay. Louise says, I think one of the reasons why we pull chest is because we don't want to be in our head voice, because we think it sounds bad. Agreed. Alex, when I sing, I think I sound good, but when I record my voice, I sound like a dying cat. So, Alex, you have some work to do. Isn't that good that you know that? If you didn't record yourself, how would you know? Arash, are we pulling chest to not entering head voice? But is it okay at that moment that we switch to head voice? So Arash, it's always okay to go into your bridge, to begin mixing early. It's always okay to mix a little bit early. It's never okay to pull the chest voice higher. You don't want to ever pull chest voice higher, but you can start mixing earlier. Philip, hi Philip. How to sing for a long time without damaging my throat. Yes, if you can learn to sing in a mix and not pull the chest voice, you'll be light years ahead. You won't be damaging your voice. You don't damage your voice with your mix and when you're in head voice. You damage your voice by pulling the chest voice too high. Or singing sick. You don't want to sing sick. And if you talk all day and then sing all night and do that every day, you're going to overdo it. You're going to have to, you need to, because talking is really rough on the voice. So you've got to get your sleep. You got to eat right. You've got to be hydrated, do all those things. You got to have to care for your instrument. But the most important thing, I think, is to get your technique down. H-E-I-A, he-I. Pulling chest and belting, are they the same? They can be, yes. Pulling chest and belting can be the same. The term belting means different things to different people. So a lot of times, that's exactly what they're saying. Can I just belt it by just pulling my chest up? There's a lot of different definitions of belting, but that's certainly one of them. Iron, Angelo, how do heavy and powerful singers sing? It's hard for me to sing very high. I have to use falsetto. So Iron, they've learned to mix. And again, I would get that PDF I've talked about today, get your free vocal, get your vocal type, and take the tests and do the exercises for your vocal type. Because what you learn how to do is sing from chest, through the bridge, head voice, So you learn that you can do your whole range. I just went up to the high G, down to the low G, and it didn't crack or break. I wasn't in falsetto. I was in a head voice up there. So that's what your mix can learn to do for you. And so it's very, very powerful technique. Very powerful technique. So heavy, powerful, power metal singers sing. There's a lady that teaches them to scream. Her name's Melissa Cross. I would check her out if that's what you want to do. I don't teach scream. I do help singers recover from scream, but I don't teach scream. I just help them get their voices back when they're done. It's Amy Official. Hi. It's Amy Official. Practicing only on microphone is a good thing or not? For years, I didn't ever use a microphone to practice. I don't use a microphone to practice. I have I have this H5, is that what it's called? Zoom. And I had a Tascam for 11 years, and I would just record it on an MP3 recorder, just over, just practicing, use that to record my practice. Before that, I used a cassette tape. Okay, so I don't know if it's good or bad. I don't think it really makes a difference. Microphones usually make you sound better. So in a way, that could be a negative. It might be better just to rely on the naked voice. Okay, practicing. Let's see. So back to Iron Angela says, I have to use falsetto. If we don't know how to mix, then most people break into falsetto when they go into, many people break into falsetto to go higher. So learning how to mix will help you get over breaking into falsetto. Sean Devlin says, I think that most singers pull the chest voice because they didn't find that head voice and learn how to use it properly. Yeah, it takes some time, and a lot of people don't want to invest that time. How much pulling the chest voice is similar to belting? It's pretty much the same, I think. There's a certain kind of belt where they use a high larynx, and they can thin out the chest part of it. That takes some special training, and it has its limitations. I don't think it's as good as mixing. Is head voice just a strong falsetto with a small air leak? No, head voice has some different muscles activated, and falsetto has a lack of muscles activated. So there's a different musculature, there's a different muscular coordination with falsetto. Falsetto is truly you don't have any of the thyroid or arytenoid participating in the sound in falsetto, whereas you do have the thyroid or arytenoid in participating in the production of the tone when you're in head voice in conjunction with the cricothyroid, the CT. That's a bunch of gobbledygook, but it's different. It's not just the sound. There's a muscular difference between falsetto and head voice, because the tone literally disconnects from the bottom. Now I have no bottom in it. Whereas if I'm in head voice, you can hear a difference. There's more to it. There's more overtones, and the tone remained consistent. Okay, I'm reaching up for my bifocals here. Been singing choir for 2+ years. I've recently been assessing my head voice, but I feel like this accessing my head voice. I feel like this accessing changes from day to day, which is very frustrating. Any advice? Eric, singing choir is different than solo work, and because most of the time the choir teachers want us to blend in with the choir, and in a solo situation, that's the last thing you want to do. It's all about me, right? All about you, the soloist. That being said, it may be inconsistent. And so, again, I would revisit the vocal exercises for your whatever your vocal type is. If it is pulled chest, high larynx, I would revisit those exercises and make sure they're consistent. And you should be able to develop that consistency with use of those exercises. Cookie Eater, you should watch the video on this channel, Head Voice versus Falsetto. Okay, yeah, that'd be a good choice. Logan says, way is hard to get this G5. If I try to sing high G5, I have not vibration. Yeah, well, I just did that for you. I just sang the G5, and I think I couldn't do that until I learned how to mix and how to keep that larynx down with that dopey G. You could do that, say, G. I said gee, 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 gee. If I pull my larynx up, I can't do it personally. So those are exercises that can keep the larynx down and teach you to mix and get you up into your head voice. Again, get that free PDF. Get your vocal type. Hey, Thiago, you retracted your message, but hello. I know what's a cassette. I know what's a cassette, and he's 30 years old. All right. Okay. Good. All right. So there's still some cassette tape people out there. Layers Prods. What is pulled chest voice? Go back to the beginning of this and watch it, and that'll answer your question. Thiago, what is the note that men should start doing head voice instead of chest voice? So if you're a baritone or a tenor, you want to start dropping off. The chest voice starts dropping off just before the E above middle C, because the bridge starts at E. So you want to start mixing chest voice with head voice, so it's not full blasted chest. So really, it's about the E, or a little bit before the E above middle C, and start doing head voice instead of chest voice. Yeah, there's not like a chest voice, head voice. There's chest voice mix that's in the bridge, and then head voice. So E, F, F sharp, and then by the time you get to G, you're getting into your head voice there. And A flat, A, there's no chest left in that, unless you're pulling it. So E, F, F sharp is where you make the transition from chest voice to head voice, but gradually. By the time you get to the G, A flat, you're in head voice. I'm recording my exercises at home and with my vocal coach. It's very helpful to find all your mistakes and work on that, and work in the future. I recommend this every singer. Good, Sean Devlin. You'll make faster progress that way, I guarantee. Thiago says, when we hear the high note in the song "Don't Stop Believing" in Journey, is it head voice? Yes. It could be falsetto. I guess I shouldn't answer that definitively, but I have to say that I'd have to listen to it again. My initial impression was that he could do it in head voice. Hi, Abby. Oh, you got to go. Nice to have you here today. Eric, way to go on the high C. Actually, I think it was. Oh, yeah. Well, thanks. What is the key thing to mix and not pull chest? I find it hard at the beginning. Well, key number one is keep the larynx down. Duh. Or yeah. So number two is keep the vowel pure. Gosh, it's 8 minutes after the hour. How much more do we have to go here? We're almost ending. That's a long answer to. There's a bunch more to. Wow, there's a lot of questions here. The key things to not mix is keep the larynx low, or keep the larynx resting at your speech level, and make sure the vowels don't splat or spread. If you're singing, you can hear I'm going from to go through the bridge. That's a really fast answer to that. When you're going from to you'll get through the bridge. You'll start mixing. If I do it that way, I'm pulling chest. But listen. So you can hear that to will help you get through that bridge. Try it. What's the difference between g and gi? Or goo and gi. Well, they're both very roughly the same because they're both very as bad as narrow a vowel or closed vowel as you can get. Oo and E are the two most closed vowels. And so they're similar. But I think that the goo has a little bit more of it kind of biases towards the hooty sound. Goo. It just seems like sometimes it's easier to access oo. So I would say, for me personally, oo seems to be a little more heady in its bias than the E does. But there's not a lot of difference between those two. Thiago, the problem is I still don't know how to do head voice, how to transform my falsetto in head voice. If I just lower the larynx, the sound is still strange, like a classical opera singer. Yeah, so we've only talked about the dopey gi, but there are other ways to get through your bridge. So if I said, if I slightly raise the larynx, nay, 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 nay. Now I just went up into head voice, nay, 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 but I went a little bit exaggerated the other way. Whether you're doing a dopey sound or an exaggerated sound, you just use them until you can connect the chest to the head voice. After you do that, then you go back to as much normal as you can. But you're building new muscle memory. So if I said, pretty soon, once I get used to that, try and do it more normal. So, you go from one vowel to the next and try different vowels once the larynx is staying down. So it's a process. I studied with a teacher also, and I feel like that sped up my learning. For a couple of years, I was just listening to tapes, and I think that's a little bit slower process. But for me, I needed a teacher and preferred to have a teacher. But there were no videos like this, no programs like this, and there was no, this was before the day of video, or at least convenient videos. Thiago, I said, classical. Kyle B, hi. Hi, Kyle. Good to see you again. Stephen Pickering, hi, Chuck. Can't thank you enough for these sessions. It's been revelatory to me. What are the notes on the 1.5 scale up and down, say starting on the C3? It's a 1, 3, 5, 8. 9, 11. 1, 3, 5, 8, 9, 10. I'm sorry, 10, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10. 1, 3, 5, 8, 10. 12. Sorry. So it's the three chord, the triad, major triad, same 3 notes, an octave higher, and then when you come down, it's the 5/7. So in this key that you're talking about, F, G, B, G, F, D, C. Okay, so Kyle says the exercise worked great. Thanks for yesterday. It helped a lot. Awesome, Kyle. Thank you. Sean Devlin says, thank you for your answers. Deserve 1 billion subscribers. I would agree if they would agree. Okay. Natalia. Hi, Natalia. Hi, Chuck. Bridging using crying technique is very helpful. Wondering what are some other adjustments in the voice box except for the low larynx. Yes, Natalia, it is that little nay, nay, nay is very helpful. So if I were in your register and I was going from A to A, nay, 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 nay. It's kind of a funny, exaggerated puppet sound. Nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 nay. Nay, 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 and so forth. It thins the chest out, but it deepens the upper so that you're not in falsetto. That's another very powerful one. It's temporary, and once you can get it down, then you just continue that because you can go more and more normal all the time. It's slightly elevated larynx, but not like pulling your chest voice. The evil genius, hey, is it important to learn how to read music or training the ear before learning to mix? It's going to be, so learn it as soon as you can. But no, you don't. It's very helpful. This is very helpful. But you can learn to mix without knowing. But to be able to really, for it to be very serviceable for you, you eventually want to learn those things for sure. But don't wait. I mean, you can learn them pretty. You take some piano lessons, and in a month's time, you'll know enough about it to, that really help you. Jonathan Actus. Hi, Jonathan. I have problems that I can reach some notes, but I can't keep it. It starts steady, and then I just can't keep it. Yeah, it might be any number of things. Do you run out of breath? Are you finding that the voice is getting too tight? Is it kind of seizing up? It's hard to know for sure from what you've described here, but it almost sounds like you're kind of running out of air. So again, I would go earlier in the video. I answered that, how to get more air information on air. Gosh, you guys, I'm not going to be able to finish. I got a student here in 10 minutes. Let me see if I can just do a little bit shorter answers here. Kokos Anna, how fast should you move to low larynx exercises in SLS after doing pharyngeal placement? For me, using low larynx like mum made me fall from my placement and started pushing chest more. Yeah, so just if you change the exercise and it starts to feel like you're pulling, go back to the one that's working for you. Revisit the other periodically and make sure you're doing it right. If you're doing it right, it won't pull. But it takes us all a little bit of time to get it right. So go to the one that works, but every day revisit the other one. Listen to the demonstrations and have somebody listen in and help and see if they can hear the difference and maybe give you some advice. But stay with the one that's working. Okay, I have a high note. Lokman says, I have a high note, but I can't vibrate my voice. I have a high note. What is exercise for the vibration, chest to head voice, to mix? So Lokman, go to Power, get that PDF in the description below, get your vocal type, take the vocal test, do exercises, watch the videos for your vocal type, and then do the exercises. There's a free download of exercises that will get you so you can vibrate your voice up high and in the middle and down low. So there'll be exercises like this. There'll be exercises like this. Nay, 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 nay. And like this. They're all available there, and they're free. Evil Geniuses are from India, and Indian singing is so different. It is. We don't have sheet music. I'm not ear trained. How come singers learn to recognize notes by ears? I can't do that. I can't recognize the note by just hearing it. I have relative I can have relative pitch. I kind of know where the notes are within 2 or 3 notes by how it feels in my voice. And so some people they can hear it and know exactly what note it is. That's called perfect pitch. And I don't. I have relative pitch. Jaap van Dijk. For every new high note, do I have to release my stomach? No. So I can pull my stomach in. And my stomach is in the whole time. All right, says, what is the best practice for having a robust chest voice? Then do it on Genius, say, Chuck, can I sing over my bridge when I'm singing a scale? But when I sing a song, I can sing over my bridge when singing a scale, but when I sing a song, I can't hit those notes. Why? It's because the vowel on some of those words, the vowel is opening too wide. So if I said, and the rocket's red glare, maybe I could hit those notes just fine doing exercises, but I'm spreading the vowel. So I've got to take that vowel and narrow it. And the rocket's red glare. So I have to narrow it red to rid, and rocket's rid glare. And if I narrow the vowel, then I can sing that without pulling my chest or without it breaking. Jonathan says, hey, Chuck, we've had problems with not being able to hold the notes. I can reach them, but I can't keep them. Okay, I think I answered that. Vocal changes. Normally, how many mixed voices can we make? It's just one. You mix in every bridge. And so the lower register and the register above blend together. So you have multiple bridges. If you're a guy, 3 to 4 bridges that you can use, and for some females, they can even get into a 5th and maybe even a 6th bridge. So they would mix through all of those. But generally speaking, once you get this technique down, there's element of mix throughout your voice everywhere, but particularly in the bridges. You know what, guys? I'm almost to the end here. Iron says, thank you for your reply. I'm not really looking forward to screaming, just singing very high notes. Yeah, no, you don't need to scream, really. It's you can do the high notes without the scream, for sure. Thanks for letting me know. H. Roblox. Hi, Chuck. So basically, I'm doing the pulled chest flip falsetto exercises for months now, and there's a huge improvement. Do these exercises help the vocal change finish? Is that why it's easier? It doesn't, no. It doesn't speed up the vocal change. It does help the larynx stay down. And it retrains your nervous system so it accepts this new feeling, this new thing that you're able to do. Congratulations. It's not easy to do what you're doing. That's awesome. 16 years old. I'm so excited to. I didn't know about that. I wish I'd known when I was your age about this. I wish I had known. Can you show us your favorite vocal exercises? Well, I think I have. The nay, nay, nay is a favorite, and the gee, 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 2 of my favorite exercises. Can you respond? Thank you for responding to my question. Consistent practice should lead to a consistent head voice. Sure. Yes, you're welcome, Lokman. Deborah, hi, Deborah. Full session, thanks. When it's over, I'm going back to the beginning. Check out pull chest. Okay. Iron Angelo, my voice sounds kind of nasal when I sing high notes. That's the larynx coming up. So if you get that larynx down, there's going to be much less nasality. And Cyprem, hello. Do you use nasality singing in Mass? Do you use nasality singing in Mass? I'm not sure what that question means, but if I said nay, 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 some people think that's nasal. Here's nasal. Nay, 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 nay. I'm putting that sound in my nasal cavity. This is not a pharyngeal sound. Isn't nasal. Nay, 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 nay. See, I'm not. I can pinch my nose, and it's not stuck in there. It's just a pharyngeal. Nay, 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 nay. All right, you guys. Thanks for. We went an hour and a half today. I don't know if anybody will watch this, but I hope that these answers have been beneficial to you. I'm Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing. You can sing higher with beauty, confidence, and power. See you inside the next video.